Hello everyone. In today's session, we'll be learning about the joining processes, which includes soldering, brazing, and welding. So first of all, we'll look into what is welding, then soldering and brazing here. Right. So let us see what exactly is welding. So welding is defined as a metallurgical joining of two metal pieces together to produce essentially a single piece of metal. Understand, you have two different materials and you need to make it as a joint, so you go for welding here. So in most of the cases in nowadays, what we do is we assume that this welding joints to be a major part in the designing process. So assuming that it is homogeneous, continuous, so we can consider this welding joints as to be a single piece in design aspects. So that is the advantage of using this welding processes or welding any of the components here. There are two types of welding here, basically pressure welding and fusion welding. So let us see what is pressure welding here. So pressure welding, it says the parts are heated only up to the plastic state, okay, and then fused together by applying external pressure. So what we are going to do here is, so we are going to heat the metal here, heat the metal at the end that needs to be joined or welded. So when this melts to the plastic state, then the external pressure is applied to merge the components or to weld the components. So this is how a pressure welding is. So what are again the examples of pressure weldings are force welding and the resistance welding here. You have already seen what is force welding, so you know what is forging here. You have two materials here. When we heat up to this plastic state and hammer it, it is going to obtain a single piece. Okay, so that is something about force welding. Here you can see a resistance welding here, where the current is passed on to this material workpiece and it is going to be welded. Okay, this is about the force welding and the resistance welding. When it comes to fusion welding, it is a bit different compared with the pressure welding here. So here what exactly happens here is the parts are heated to molten state, so the material has to melt, the workpiece has to melt here, and then it is allowed to solidify. Okay, it is known as it is also known as non-pressure welding. So you can see the difference, you can make out the difference here. What we are going to do is just heat the material not to the molten state. Okay, just heat the material to a plastic state and then join the component. Whereas here we are going to melt this component and add suitable flux or filler rod. We use filler rod here or suitable flux here in order to join these two components. So this is about fusion welding. Again, you have two types of fusion welding here. So one is arc welding, one is gas welding. Most of the engineering workshops, in most of the joining processes, we use these two commonly used welding machines are the arc welding machine and the gas welding machine here. As you can see here, you have got a welding machine which is having a AC or DC power supply, so connected to the work cable here. So and electrode is affixed to the electrode holder. When the electrode comes in contact with this workpiece, so an arc is struck and it starts to weld. Okay, so this is about arc welding. Let us see, when do we use AC, when do we use DC, and we'll also see this electrode, is it consumable, non-consumable. We'll see in the later slides. So when we come across this gas welding here, again we use a torch here, gas torch. We use oxyacetylene welding. We use oxygen and acetylene gases, where it readily mixes in the torch here, and welding is made. Right. So this is what the arc welding and gas welding is. So in your syllabus, we'll be learning about the arc welding and gas welding. I hope you have understood this. So you have got two types of welding here. One is pressure welding, one is fusion welding. In fusion welding, we will be studying what is arc welding and gas welding. So let's see what is arc welding. As you can see here, so this is the main setup for the arc welding. You have got the mains led or switch here, and a machine which may be AC or DC machine here we can use, and we use polarities here. Okay, for both electrode holder and the workpiece here. So we use polarity based welding here. So where the arc or the temperature may increase up to 5000 to 6000 degrees Celsius. So where it melts the component, and when it is allowed to solidify, it readily solidifies and becomes the joint, and you can obtain a joint here. See, when the welding component here, you know how to weld and how exactly you're going to join these two components. But what do we understand by this joining? When we consider for a design consideration, when you need to select a material, you will always use a raw material or a new material to any designing aspects. But here in nowadays what we are going to do is we are going to use this welding joint also, because we can assume this as a single joint, single material, and that is how in design consideration we are going to consider this welded joints. Okay, so this is the greater advantage of using welding machines or welding a component here. So when it comes to arc welding here, what exactly happens, or what is the working principle of this arc welding here is, you have got a base material or a workpiece, you have got an electrode. So we'll see in detail how this electrode melts, how this slag formation takes place, and how this electrode or this flux converts into a slag or a base material or a weld deposit here. We'll understand in the later slides. So as of now, let us understand the components and the working of it. So you have got a workpiece here, you have got an electrode. Electrode is of again two types, one is consumable and one is non-consumable electrode. In a consumable electrode, the electrode itself gets consumed, and which reduces here and deposits onto this workpiece. Whereas in non-consumable, this electrode will not reduce, the size of this electrode will not reduce. Instead, we use another filler rod, where the filler rod gets consumed and accumulates on the workpiece here. So this is what difference between a consumable and non-consumable is. But here, what exactly happens in a consumable electrode here is, see, this electrode, when it comes in contact with this workpiece, suppose if you have a 2 mm or 1 mm of a gap between this workpiece and the electrode, because of the polarity, again I'm repeating, because of the polarity, because of the electric charge here, when there is a small gap between the workpiece and the electrode, an arc is struck. When the arc is struck, temperature increases up to 5000 degrees Celsius or to 6000 degrees Celsius. When this happens, the electrode starts melting, and this workpiece starts melting, and which creates a region called as crater. Okay, so this molten weld metal or this molten metal here accumulates on the crater here, and now there is a different types of composition which is given to the electrode, which produces the inert gases. So in order to prevent the oxidization of this component, what happens when the oxidation takes place, you know about it. When oxidation takes place, this material becomes weak here, right? So erosion, corrosion takes place. So in order to prevent that, oxidation should be prevented, right? So when oxidation is preventing, what happens, this inert gas forms a shield. So now electrode, when it is in the contact of the workpiece here, an arc is struck and this starts welding. So you have got two types of welding here. One is leftward welding, one is rightward welding here, right? So you can use both the methods that you want. So when the arc is struck, you know that welding is done. So once this flux is coated along this electrode, the flux melts and accumulates and becomes the base metal, or the weld deposit or the slag here. So we need to remove this excess slag. Okay, so slag is removed in the later stages. We'll see what is the procedure for welding. So you have got a core wire here which is surrounded with the flux material. Okay, so this is about the penetration, how the weldment is done. So this is about the arc welding. So what exactly happens here inside this inert gas here? See here, this electrode core wire starts melting along with this flux. So inert gas is developed here, and it creates a shield where oxidation prevents. So this is a crate. So I hope it is clear for you. Now how exactly it looks after welding? So once when the arc welding is done, so this slag or the weld deposits throughout the weldment here, so in the direction of welding. Okay, so you have got different types of edge preparation. We'll see in detail in the later slides. So as I told, the temperature increases up to 5000 to 6000 degrees Celsius. So this flux coating over the electrode produces inert gas shield. So how do you get the inert gas here? The flux coating, the composition of the flux produces this inert gases, okay, surrounding the arc and prevents oxidizing, as I told. So this is about arc welding. Here what you need to do is you need to understand this concept and draw this diagram. So this is about arc welding. Now let us see what are the types of arc welding machines. So I've got AC and DC arc welding machines here, right? So this is about the arc welding, where you have a primary coil and you have a secondary coil, where the voltage gems. You can have this step up transformer or step down transformer. Most of the cases we use step down transformer again. So you do not worry about this, because you may not expect this kind of questions in your exams, but still you need to understand when do we use AC and when do we use DC arc welding machines. So here you have got 440 volts which can be reduced to 220 volts here or 200 volts here at the secondary coil. So basically we use a step down transformer for a AC arc welding machines. Okay, so you know how a primary and secondary coil, how the voltage jumps or reduces depending upon the coils here. Okay, so this is about the DC arc welding. A simple technique that we use for most of the applications is DC arc welding machines. So it is, which is like your mobile arc welding, okay, where you can carry it and you can have this power inlet, and you have an alternator or generator here where the power output may be 55 volts to 100 volts. Okay, where again depending upon the temperature, depending upon the material, we use this AC arc welding and DC arc welding machines, right? So next we'll move on to types of arc welding machines. Okay, we have got again two types of arc welding machines. One is tungsten inert gas welding, one is metal inert gas welding. Again, it depends on the applications where we use. See here, when I say this tungsten inert gas welding here, so we use a tungsten component here. Okay, so gas tungsten arc welding. Okay, so we have got one more extra component here, that is a filler rod. So when, as I told, this tungsten electrode, the tip of this electrode, when it has a contact with the workpiece, or say suppose a small gap between the workpiece and the electrode, an arc is struck. So when the temperature increases, I'm using this filler rod here. So this is made up of a flux. We'll see in detail what are the materials that we use for a filler rod. Now when the arc is struck here, this filler rod is fed to this weldment joint here. Right, when this melts, it accumulates on this workpiece. Okay, so I've got again the copper shoe here, which is an optional for this. You've got a power shielding gas here. So where this tungsten electrode is not a consumable electrode, which is a non-consumable electrode, we'll see in detail. Okay, so now when it comes to So when it comes to this metal inert gas welding, here we are going to use a consumable electrode. Okay, so the electrode itself gets consumed and accumulates on the workpiece here. Okay, so I've got a difference between a tungsten and a metal inert gas welding here. We are going to use a non-consumable electrode. We're going to use a consumable electrode in a metal inert gas welding. So here a filler rod is used here, whereas the flux coating is done on the filler rod, but here the electrode is coated with the flux material here. So here the flux is selected in such a way that it is similar to the parent material, okay, in a tungsten inert gas welding. But in case of metal inert gas welding, it is autogeneous. That means to say you can use a different kind of flux material when it is compared with this base material. Okay, and it is this weldment or this TIG welding is used for homogeneous mixture or homogeneous component, whereas this metal inert gas welding is used for autogeneous material here. Okay, so let us see the differences later. So when it comes here, as you can see in this particular video, you can see here the base material is heated up and the filler rod is fed to this molten region. So this is how this TIG welding is done. As you can see here, the base material is heated up first and the filler material is fed. So you can also see the animation over here. So the base material is heated up to the molten state and this filler rod is fed to this particular component here. So whereas in metal inert gas welding, so what exactly happens here is you don't have any filler rod here. You just have the flame or the arc struck here. Without any use of additional filler rod, you're going to weld the component. So this is about metal inert gas welding. So let us move on to the differences here. So as you can see, this MIG welding utilizes a consumable electrode, and this TIG welding, it uses a non-consumable electrode. Okay, this electrode itself melts down to supply necessary filler metal required to fill the root gap between base material. But in case of TIG welding, it is not the same. So here the composition of electrode metal is selected based on the parent material. See here you need to understand, for MIG welding the base material is same as the electrode material. Okay, there is a small correction over here. So composition of electrode metal is selected as base material. Okay, whereas in case of this TIG welding, it is different. Alloying is required, such as thorium with respect to tungsten. So these are some of the differences we see in MIG and TIG welding here, right? So as I told, both we use consumable and non-consumable electrode. So what exactly happens in consumable electrode? There is, you have got the electrode holder. This electrode is getting consumed. Okay, so this is how it is going to melt. So the electrode is getting consumed and the weldment is made here. Okay, so whereas in non-consumable electrode we use additional filler rod here. So this is a simple example of a TIG welding that I've taken here. So which is a non-consumable electrode, and we use additional filler material here. See, let us see how we are going to follow the procedure on welding here. So in a general welding procedure, what we do is we first clean the surface of the workpiece, later go for edge preparation. You have different kinds of edge preparation based on the weldment joint or welding joint. We go for the edge preparation. So you have got different types of edge preparation, as you can see here. So double V groove, single V groove, right? So single U groove, double U groove, and you have different kinds of edge preparation is made, and then clamping the workpiece to obtain the polarity in the welding, and later check for the safety equipment such that since the electric arc produces the UV rays, so it is hazardous to the human eye. Hence, we need to go for the safety equipments for welding. So, and then we go for initial welding. We call this as tack welding. See, initially what happens here is, in order to obtain these two joints, we do not go for continuous welding. We go for tack welding. We are going to weld spot welding. I call this a spot welding or tack welding. So at the two ends, we are going to go for tack weld, and then continuously you're going to weld throughout the length of the weldment, or throughout the length of the joint. So this is about this the initial weld. We go for tack welding, and then go for intermediate weld or continuous welding, and finally the excess material is removed. So the slag formation always takes place in the welding. So we need to remove the excess welding to obtain uniform accumulation of this weldment or welding joint. Right. We'll go for the oxyacetylene welding now. So here we do not use the arc method here. We go for the oxygen and acetylene mixture. We've got a torch which mixes up this acetylene and oxygen at a proper ratio, and then a flame is ignited here, and this flame melts the workpiece here. And if we use the filler material, this filler material gets converted into slag, and which holds the material, which becomes the weldment joint here, right? So this oxygen and acetylene are made to pass through this regulator or a pressure gauge or a gauge we use here, so which regulates the flow of oxygen and acetylene. So if I need to increase the temperature of the flame here, or if I need to increase the length of the flame or the temperature of this workpiece, we are going to have different kinds of mixture of oxyacetylene. So based on the mixture, we are going to get the temperature here or the flame. So this is how we are going to mix this oxyacetylene in this particular torch. Okay, so this both the gases are carried by the gas pipes, or called as hose pipes also sometimes, right? So which carries the mixture of oxygen and acetylene, and if the flame is ignited or the gas is ignited here, this flame melts this component, and if I use a filler rod, this weldment is done. So this is the diagram that you're going to write, a simple line diagram. So we're going to use regulators, two cylinders here, hose pipes, a torch, the filler rod, a weldment is done. So which is very simple to understand. But when do we get this different kinds of flames, we need to understand. So we need to study what is known as the types of oxyacetylene flames. So here the first flame is a neutral flame, where you got a blue envelope here and an inner cone at 3300 degrees Celsius approximately, and the outer envelope is about 1200 degrees Celsius. So this is how you get the neutral flame. See, when we come to the types of neutral flames here. A neutral flame is obtained by supplying equal volumes of oxygen and acetylene. So 1:1 ratio, we go for equal volumes. So this neutral flame consists of inner small whitish cone. So this is inner cone which is whitish, surrounded by a blue flame here. Right, so most of the oxyacetylene welding is done with the use of a neutral flame. So when we need to go for the other types of flame, we go for carburizing flame or the oxidizing flame. Right. So when we go for the oxidizing flame here, you have got an inner cone and the outer envelope which is small and narrow. Right. So when we go for oxidizing flame, it is obtained when there is excess oxygen. So when we supply excess oxygen compared to this acetylene, so you get oxidizing flame with a ratio of with a high range of 1.15 to 1.5. Okay, so it resembles a neutral flame with a small exception, that is the inner cone flame, which is somewhat shorter here, as you can see here. So you get a small and narrow outer envelope also. So this is about the oxidizing flame. So when we look into this carburizing or reducing flame, so here the oxygen supply is less compared to this acetylene. You have got a bright luminous inner cone here and the acetylene feather inside, in between this inner cone and the blue envelope here, right? So which is at a ratio of 0.95 to 1. So I've got 3 cones here, as you can see. So this is about the oxyacetylene welding and the types of oxyacetylene flames. Okay, so now you have got the assignment. So you need to write down the advantages, disadvantages of arc welding, oxyacetylene welding. So you also have to write what are the welding defects that you observe during the welding process, merits and demerits of welding, applications of welding. So this assignment I'll be giving you. So you have to upload in the classroom, Google Classroom. Right. So this was about welding. So we'll move on to brazing now. Sorry, we'll move on to the soldering. As you can see here, we go for soldering when we have a less temperature, and if you want to solder this components such as electric boards, okay, chip boards, circuit boards. So we go for our PCB boards, we go for this kind of soldering here where the temperature is less. So we use again the filler material that is called a solder, and we have got a soldering iron here, as you can see. So we use these two components for a soldering operation. So soldering is a method of joining two thin metal pieces using a dissimilar metal or an alloy by the application of heat. So we're going to heat this solder and apply onto the soldering component here, or apply onto this the base material here. So we use a solder gun or a blowtorch, which melts this filler material and is applied onto this the base material. So if you need to classify, you have got two types of soldering here. One is soft soldering, one is hard soldering. Again, in hard soldering we have brazing and silver soldering. So hard soldering, we use this hard soldering the filler material as the silver or tin and the alloys of copper here. So brazing is also classified under hard soldering because the working principle of this brazing is similar to the soldering here. So when we look into this soft solder, so we use zinc chloride as a flux for soft soldering. And the temperature ranges from up to 450 degrees Celsius or to 300 degrees Celsius here. So this soft soldering is used for joining small intricate parts which may damage when soldering has to be carried out at higher temperatures. See, what exactly happens here is when you go more than 450 degrees Celsius, again the joining will be removed. Okay, so for example, we go for fixing electronic components and wiring to circuit boards also. So these are the applications where we use a soft solder. So when we go for hard soldering or hard solder here, so we use alloys of copper, tin and silver as a flux. Okay, where the melting temperature for these flux are higher, which is greater than 450 degrees Celsius. So that is where we go for hard soldering. Again, as I told, brazing comes under this hard soldering. Okay, so this is the diagram you need to draw. You have got a soldering iron, this solder, this filler material is called as solder, and I've got a copper pad and the circuit board here, and this is how you're going to weld the component. Okay, now what is the method that we want to follow for soldering is first clean the joining, joining the joinment here, and then apply application of flux. Okay, next we go for tinning of the surfaces to be soldered. So what we do is if there is an extra projections in this base material, we are going to remove it through the files. We are going to smoothen the surface, which is called as tinning, and then slightly heat up the uh, material or the area of interest where you're going to solder, and then final cleanup is necessary for soldering. So again, you have got two types of soldering here, basically a torch soldering or a wave soldering. So the torch soldering, wherever you go for a simple electronic boards or a PCB boards to be soldered, we go for torch soldering. In most of the industrial applications, we go for wave soldering, where mass soldering is done. So when we go for mass soldering, we go for this wave soldering. These are used in industrial applications here again. You need to understand this torch soldering and this diagram. You need to remember this, right? So if you go for brazing, as I told, it comes under the classification of hard soldering. So brazing connects two pieces of base metal by melting filler metal and distributing it in its liquid state between the pieces, fusing them together. So we go for higher temperatures here, as you can see. So braze welding or brazing. Okay. So at this particular case, we use a torch, again the same torch here, and we go for different kinds of filler rods or a filler material in order to braze the edges or the area of interest here. So what are the methods that we follow here is, so apply the flux to the joints. First apply the flux, later slowly heat up the area that needs to be brazed, feed the filler rod at the area of interest for brazing at a correct temperature, and you can start brazing the material here. So at the end, you need to clean the oxidized joint. Of course, as you're going to get the oxidized components there, or the slag on this particular component, so you need to remove this brazing extra excess material here. So this was about brazing again, right? We have got different types of brazing here. One is torch brazing, furnace brazing, dip brazing, vacuum brazing, infrared, resistance, braze welding, induction, electron beam, and laser welding or laser brazing. So these are few types of brazing which you need to understand. So what furnace brazing, where we go for, again as I told, we go for mass production or mass brazing. So you have n number of components to braze at a single time. So we use conveyor belts in order to braze this. So this is about the furnace brazing, where the furnace is preheated at more than 450 degrees Celsius. And we also go for dip brazing. So we have got a molten flux here. So flux is in the liquid state. We are going to dip the component and we are going to braze the required joint here. So as I said, torch brazing, which is simple, and you have seen this kind of brazing done. So induction brazing. So we want to heat the component here and simply insert or feed this filler material onto this, where induction brazing is done. So as I told, resistance welding, resistance brazing is also similar type. We're going to supply the power or electricity to this component here. So where the least resistance, or the more the resistance, more will be the accumulation of this brazing material here. So we go for majorly a steel component here. So I've got electrode, so which welds or brazes here on this particular component, where two components are held together, and once when the resistance is applied here, or when the resistance is produced by this particular component here, so brazing is done. We'll also have to write the assignment on soldering and brazing here. So you have to write the advantages and disadvantages of soldering as well as brazing, applications of soldering and brazing if available. You also have to compare soldering and brazing along with brazing and welding here. So this is an important question for your exam. You need to compare these two. Okay. So there are two assignments in this particular chapter. So I hope you have understood welding, soldering, and brazing here.